Good Monday morning to you. Well, as the leaf blowers go in the background, today we're going to try and do something a little bit different. It is still gardening related, something I should probably be doing maybe on a quarterly basis, so let's call this the mid-year, the 6-month sort of thing, is the sprinklers. We got the water bill recently, and it was higher than expected. So, we're talking about things like some water saving devices inside the house. But I'm also thinking about the sprinklers because I've been thinking about them. I usually am thinking about them. um, the front lawn is in pretty good shape. It probably doesn't need quite as much water as we're giving it. It could grow a little bit slower, and then I wouldn't have to mow it quite so often. It's still green. So I'm thinking I can turn this particular zone, this is actually 2 zones. It is the way everything was set up originally, and we haven't completely retooled it. When this house was built like 50 years ago, they split the first 2 zones. One does that sort of further part of the lawn, and the other, zone 2, does this part of the lawn that's in the shade here. But also the other associated plants, well, okay, granted the geraniums are not looking the healthiest, but that might also be because some of these sprinkler heads are not putting out the water that they should. So things like that. I can turn down the lawn or reduce the number of minutes per week. And things like the side yard, probably getting too much water at this point. It's growing like total crazy. I think I can knock some of the water down, slow things down a bit. But in the backyard, the tomatoes and peppers, those could probably use a couple more minutes. So it's a bunch of adjustment. I think the goal would be ultimately to reduce by maybe 25%. So down to, down to 75%, I'm not sure, or 80%, depending on how you count the 25. It's an engineering thing. 25% reduction, it depends on how you calculate it. Either you end up watering 75% of what you were before, or 80%. It's a whole thing. I could get into the math, but my bottom line is I want to get down to maybe 75% of what we're at right now. But I think the first swipe at this, I want to go for like 15 to 20%, and then I can try and fine tune it a little bit more, because I don't want to turn things down too much and have everything go yellow on me and then I'm pulling a ton of dead stuff. So let's go take a look at something. Okay, sorry for not having fancy graphics, but this is how I'm going to figure all this out, is just by writing it all down. I've gone through the programs. There's an A program and a B program, thus the A and B columns. The A program runs 3 times a week, thus the times 3. And the B program runs 4 times a week, thus the times 4. And so the other numbers there are the minutes. So 15 by 3 basically means 3 times a week, 15 minutes of water for zone 1. And that's part of the lawn. So on the right, I wrote down the numbers. I've got, basically, if you work it all out, that's going to total to 3 times 108. It's going to be 324 plus, for almost 5 hours worth of, now granted, not every valve is putting out the same amount of water because of the different number of sprinkler heads and the different types and everything, but basically we're putting in about 5 hours of water over the 7-day week. And so if I could get that down to 3.5, that would actually be more than, I think that's more than 25%, isn't it? We'll figure that out in a minute. But basically what I want to do now is go through, and one by one I want to consider, like the first 2 zones, they don't need quite as much water, so I can reduce those right away. So let's say if instead of 15 minutes, I make it 12 minutes. So 12 by 3, 12 by 3. Right there, I have saved 18 minutes worth of water just by knocking it down by 3 minutes. Then I've got the other zones, which I need to try and think through what I want to do. So let me figure that out and I'll come back. Okay, this is part of figuring it out, and it's going to be a little hard to show. but this particular one is not rotating. Well, maybe it is. But that's what you watch for. You want to make sure that the sprinkler is doing what you want it to do, because if it's not spraying the area that you want it to spray, or if it's overspraying and just getting the sidewalk or the driveway wet, you're wasting water. So basically I was looking at this particular zone because I wanted to make sure it was working properly and that I had the right zone before I go reprogramming it. So this is zone 5 with our impact sprinklers. These are what actually provide most of the water that the citrus trees get, as well as taking care of some of the vegetation out front here. So ultimately I'm going to turn this one down probably by quite a bit. It's going to mean that way in the backyard there, hopefully you can see that one running, there's ice plant up on that hill, and that's probably going to suffer a bit. But the trees are a little bit higher priority than the ice plant on the hill. And if we keep going with doing things like terracing, then maybe we'll have another plan next year for what to do with that hill in the back. Might be able to plant something else in there that grows. The ice plant is really slow. This is my attempt to grow ice plant from seed, and it's not doing real well. So I'm not too sure what to make of all of that, but those are the things to watch for. So that's the first one. Number 5 is going to get turned down. Okay, so I guess I'm going backwards. This is zone 4. You can see it's sort of spraying out, covering some stuff that doesn't absolutely have to be covered, but the main point was to cover the garden here, which kind of makes me wonder if I shouldn't change this out for a couple of micros. That would probably save us some water, but we got to get some water back to these plants back here too. So this one I think is going up. We're currently at I think 12 minutes. I'm going to take it up to 15, but then you can kind of see what coverage we're getting. And so I have them on so I can see what's going on. You see there's a little overspray on the ground, but I've tried to adjust that, and that's almost impossible to completely get rid of. You also have the wind blowing the water. Yeah, I could turn this one slightly, and it wouldn't be too bad, but I think we're doing okay. My concern is the tomatoes and peppers. Sorry, I tripped on something there. But also making sure that these plants back here, because it's getting hotter, that they're going to get the water they need. There's also micros in the back. I don't know how easy that's going to be to see. But there we are. That's what we got back there. Everything's looking normal right now. Work my way over here. Yeah, I think we're doing good. Let's see, we should have some water over here. And I can see something is buried in here, in amongst the 4 clocks. There it is. I've got one in there. This actually looks like it might be a weed. And hopefully you can see there is another one back there. It's just being inundated by the plants. So I got to figure out if I want to change anything there. Up and over this. I only gave it 3 minutes, let's hope. Okay, this one was deactivated, so that's not a problem. And this over here is a bubbler, and it's doing okay. So I think the sprinklers on this zone are okay, the only problem being right back here. But with that, I think I'll give an increase to this because the tomatoes and peppers off in the corner there, and the plants in the terrace there. So, yeah. Alright, back at the chart. I've put some numbers in and figured out the savings, and my initial pass at this, not great news. If I knock 1 and 2 down to 12 minutes, I save 9 minutes total per week. If 3 goes up, I lose 16 minutes of that gain. If 4 goes up, what was I thinking? If 4 goes up, I lose 16. I think 4... Whoa. I see the problem. Okay. I was talking about reducing the water on zone 3, which is the garden there. So, okay, now I see the mistake. Let me fix that. Okay, I think I've corrected my error and I've got a plan and I've figured out how much saving I've got. Basically, 1 and 2 are going down, I mean less water. 3 is coming down, that is the garden there and some other stuff, but that's mainly the garden. So that's going down from an hour and 8 minutes total for the week to 56 minutes. And then more savings on zone 5, which is the impact sprinklers, which also hit the trees. So that's gone from an hour and 8 minutes a week down to 30 minutes. That's the biggest reduction. The only increase is zone 4, which is in the back, which is the tomatoes and peppers and mom's plants in the terracing there. That's going from an hour and 8 minutes to an hour and 14 minutes. Only a 6-minute increase, basically by, oh, that doesn't seem right. That's an 8-minute increase. Well, okay. I'm still sort of within margin of error here. Let me double check that. Let's see. Zone 4, 12 by 3 and 8 by 4 would be 36 and 32, which would be an hour and 8 minutes. That makes sense here. Let's see. 12 by 3 and 10 by 4 would be 36 and 40, which would put me at, yeah, that's where I screwed up. That should be an hour and 16 minutes. There, 16, which would make this 354, which basically on the back here I figured out that I've reduced it down to 232 minutes over 294 original. That's 79%. That should be 234 now over 294, which would make it slightly less than 79%, but still, we're basically at about a 20% reduction. If we get water rationing, they're probably going to say 25%, so we're almost there. And I'm feeling a little bit better about it. Plus, I've had a chance to look at 3 of the zones so far to make sure that they're working the way they're supposed to. I'm going to check 1 and 2, and that'll take care of that, and I'm going to go change the timer. So that pretty much takes care of this little project.